Have you ever been curious about Mexico? There is no better place to satisfy this curiosity than a visit to the heart and capital of the country, Mexico City. Come join me as we explore the world in VR. This is Wipo World. Mexico City is the capital and largest city of Mexico, as well as the most populous city in North America, and is one of the country's 32 federal entities. Mexico City is one of the most important cultural and financial centers in the world. It is located in the Valley of Mexico, a large valley in the high plateaus in the center of Mexico, at an altitude of 2,240 meters, or 7,350 feet. The city has 16 boroughs. The 2020 population for the city proper was 9,209,944, with a land area of 1,485 square kilometers, or 573 square miles. According to the most recent definition agreed upon by the federal and state governments, the population of Greater Mexico City is 21,804,515, which makes it the 6th largest metropolitan area in the world, the 2nd largest urban agglomeration in the Western Hemisphere, behind Sao Paulo, Brazil, and the largest Spanish-speaking city in the world. Greater Mexico City has a GDP of $411 billion in 2011, which makes it one of the most productive urban areas in the world. Mexico's capital is both the oldest capital city in the Americas and one of the 2 founded by indigenous people. The city was originally built on a group of islands in Lake Texcoco by the Mexica Azteca people in 1325 as Tenochtitlan. It was almost completely destroyed in the 1521 siege of Tenochtitlan and subsequently redesigned and rebuilt in accordance with the Spanish urban standards. In 1524, the municipality of Mexico City was established, known as Mexico Tenochtitlan, and as of 1585, it was officially known as Ciudad de Mexico, or Mexico City. Mexico City was the political, administrative, and financial center of a major part of the Spanish colonial empire. After independence from Spain was achieved, the federal district was created in 1824. On the 29th of January 2016, it ceased to be the federal district and is now officially known as Ciudad de Mexico, or CDMX, with a greater degree of autonomy. A clause in the Constitution of Mexico, however, prevents it from becoming a state within the Mexican Federation, as it is the seat of power in the country, unless the capital of the country were to be relocated elsewhere. Now, the history of Mexico is immense and intense. Definitely interesting, and I would recommend that you read some books about the history of Mexico, because obviously we can't cover all of the history in just this one video. I recently went to a website called gringajourneys.com, and on that website there were some books about Mexican history. On that list I've read about 2 of them, so I'll recommend those 2 books. One of them is called The Broken Spears, The Aztec Account of the Conquest of Mexico by Miguel León Portilla. That is a very good book, and I highly recommend that you read it. Another book that I read that is really good, and it's also on this list, is called Conquistador, Hernán Cortés's King Moctezuma and The Last Stand of the Aztecs by Buddy Levy. So this book is very, very good as well. If you prefer to have the audiobook, I recommend Audible. Audible is a very good app and also a website where you can listen to books instead of actually reading them in the traditional way. So let's say you want to go on a long drive, you're exercising, or you're cleaning around the house and you just want to listen to a book. Audible is definitely a great place to learn. So I will include a link to both the website, Gringa Journeys, and also for Audible in the description box. So make sure you check those out. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the attractions of Mexico City. But before we begin talking about the attractions, I would like to make a note that I make in every single video, is that this is not a list of everything there is to do in Mexico City. This is basically a list of things that I recommend. People may recommend totally different things. They may have different tastes and see different things. But this is something that I would do if I went to Mexico City and I only had a weekend to spare. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about the attraction, the first one, which is Chapultepec Park. Chapultepec, more commonly called Bosque de Chapultepec, or Chapultepec Forest, in Mexico City, is one of the largest parks in the Western Hemisphere, measuring in total just over 686 hectares, or 1,695 acres. Centered on a rock formation called Chapultepec Hill, one of the park's main functions is as an ecological space in Greater Mexico City. It is considered the first and most important of Mexico City's lungs, with trees that replenish oxygen to the Valley of Mexico. The area encompassing modern-day Chapultepec has been inhabited and considered a landmark since the pre-Columbian era, when it became a retreat for Aztec rulers. In the colonial period, Chapultepec Castle was built here, eventually becoming the official residence of Mexican heads of state. It would remain so until 1940, when it was moved to another part of the park called Los Pinos. Bosque de Chapultepec is divided into 3 sections, with the first section being the oldest and most visited. This section contains most of the park's attractions, including the castle, the Chapultepec Zoo, the Museum of Anthropology, and the Rufino Tamayo Museum, among others. It receives an estimated 15 million visitors per year. This prompted the need for major rehabilitation efforts that began in 2005 and ended in 2010. The government has authorized the construction of business, offices, and big parking lots for cars. Chapultepec Castle has such unparalleled views and terraces that explorer James F. Elton wrote, "They can't be surpassed in beauty in any part of the world." It is located at the entrance to Chapultepec Park at a height of 2,325 meters above sea level. The site of the hill was a sacred place for Aztecs, and the buildings atop it have served several purposes during its history, including that of a military academy, imperial residence, presidential residence, observatory, and since the 1940s, the National Museum of History. The Chapultepec Zoo is located in Chapultepec Park. It is one of 4 zoos near Mexico City and the best-known Mexican zoo. It was founded July 6, 1923 by Mexican biologist Alfonso Luis Herrera, using donations from private citizens and governmental funds from the Ministry of Agriculture and Development, and also with funds from the Society of Biological Studies. The zoo houses almost 2,000 animals from more than 200 species. The zoo is known for its success in breeding programs of threatened species, including giant pandas, the first institution outside of China to successfully breed the species in captivity, California condors, first institution outside of the USA to successfully breed the species, and Mexican wolves, the first litter of cubs born to released wolves. The National Museum of Anthropology is a National Museum of Mexico. It is the largest and most visited museum in Mexico. Located in the area between Paseo De La Reforma and Mahatma Gandhi Street within Chapultepec Park in Mexico City, the museum contains significant archaeological and anthropological artifacts from Mexico's pre-Columbian heritage, such as the Stone of the Sun, or the Aztec Calendar Stone, and the Aztec Xochimilco statue. The Frida Kahlo Museum, also known as the Blue House for the structure's cobalt blue walls, is a historic house museum and art museum dedicated to the life and work of Mexican artist Frida Kahlo. It is located in the Colonia del Carmen neighborhood of Coyoacán in Mexico City. The building was Kahlo's birthplace, the home where she grew up, lived with her husband Diego Rivera for a number of years, and where she later died in a room on the upper floor. In 1957, Diego Rivera donated the home and its contents in order to turn it into a museum in Frida's honor. The museum contains a collection of artwork by Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera, and other artists, along with the couple's Mexican folk art, pre-Hispanic artifacts, photographs, memorabilia, personal items, and more. The collection is displayed in the rooms of the house, which remains much as it was in the 1950s. It is the most popular museum in Coyoacán and one of the most visited in Mexico City. The Paseo de la Reforma is a wide avenue that runs diagonally across the heart of Mexico City. It was designed by Ferdinand von Rosenzweig in the 1860s and modeled after the great boulevards of Europe, such as the Ringstraße in Vienna and the Champs-Élysées in Paris. After the French intervention in Mexico overthrew the constitutional president Benito Juárez, the newly crowned Emperor Maximilian made his mark on the conquered city. He commissioned a grand avenue linking the city center with his imperial residence, Chapultepec Castle, which was then on the southwestern edge of town. The project was originally named Paseo de la Emperatriz, Promenade of the Empress, in honor of Maximilian's consort, Empress Carlota. After her return to Europe and Maximilian's subsequent execution, the restored Juárez government renamed the Paseo in honor of the Reform War. It is now home to many of Mexico's tallest buildings, such as the Torre Mayor and others in the Zona Rosa. The Angel of Independence is a victory column on a roundabout on the major thoroughfare of Paseo de la Reforma in downtown Mexico City. It was built in 1910 during the presidency of Porfirio Díaz by architect Antonio Rivas Mercado to commemorate the centennial of the beginning of Mexico's War of Independence. In later years, it was made into a mausoleum for the most important heroes of that war. It is one of the most recognizable landmarks in Mexico City, and it has become a focal point for both celebration and protest. It resembles the July Column in Paris, the Berlin Victory Column in Berlin, and Columbus Monument in New York City. The Zocalo is a common name of the main square in central Mexico City. Prior to the colonial period, it was the main ceremonial center in the Aztec city of Tenochtitlan. The plaza used to be known simply as the Main Square or Arms Square, and today its formal name is Constitution Square. This name does not come from any of the Mexican constitutions that have governed the country, but rather from the Cadiz Constitution, which was signed in Spain in the year 1812. Even so, it is almost always called the Zocalo today. Plans were made to erect a column as a monument to independence, but only the base, or Zocalo, was built. It has been a gathering place for Mexicans since Aztec times, having been the site of Mexican ceremonies, the swearing-in of viceroys, royal proclamations, military parades, independence ceremonies, and modern religious events, such as the festivals of Holy Week and Corpus Christi. It has received foreign heads of state and is the main venue for both national celebrations and national protests. The Zocalo and surrounding blocks have played a central role in the city's planning and geography for almost 700 years. The site is just one block southwest of the Templo Mayor, which, according to Aztec legend and mythology, was considered the center of the universe. The Mexico City Metropolitan Cathedral, or in full, the Metropolitan Cathedral of the Assumption of the Most Blessed Virgin Mary into Heaven, is the cathedral church of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Mexico. It is situated atop the former Aztec sacred precinct near the Templo Mayor on the northern side of the Plaza de la Constitucion, Zocalo, in the historic center of Mexico City. The cathedral was built in sections from 1573 to 1813 around the original church that was constructed soon after the Spanish conquest of Tenochtitlan, eventually replacing it entirely. Spanish architect Claudio de Arciniega planned the construction, drawing inspiration from Gothic cathedrals in Spain. The cathedral has been a focus of Mexican cultural identity and is a testament to its colonial history. Researcher Manuel Rivera Cambas reported that the cathedral was built on the site's sacred precinct of the Aztecs and with the very stones of their temples so that the Spaniards could lay claim to the land and the people. Hernán Cortés supposedly himself laid the first stone of the original church. The Palacio De Bellas Artes, or Palace of Fine Arts, is a prominent cultural center in Mexico City. It has hosted notable events in music, dance, theater, opera, and literature in Mexico, and has held important exhibitions of painting, sculpture, and photography. Consequently, the Palacio de Bellas Artes has been called the Cathedral of Art in Mexico. The building is located on the western side of the historic center of Mexico City, next to Alameda Central Park. The Museo Soumaya, or Soumaya Museum, is a private museum in Mexico City and a non-profit cultural institution with two museum buildings in Mexico City, Plaza Carso and Plaza Loreto. It has over 66,000 works from 30 centuries of art, including sculptures from pre-Hispanic Mesoamerica, 19th and 20th century Mexican art, and an extensive repertoire of works by European old masters and masters of modern Western art, such as Auguste Rodin, Salvador Dalí, Bartolomé Esteban Murillo, and Tintoretto. It is called one of the most complete collections of its kind. The Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe is a Roman Catholic church, basilica, and national shrine of Mexico, which houses the cloak containing the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. The 1709 shrine was built in the north of Mexico City, near the hill of Tepeyac, where the Virgin Mary is believed to have appeared to Saint Juan Diego. The basilica structure, which now contains Juan Diego's cloak, was completed in 1974. One of the most important pilgrimage sites of Catholicism, the Basilica and Tilma, or Cloak, are visited by several million people every year, especially around the 12th of December, which is Our Lady of Guadalupe's feast day. Estadio Azteca is a multi-purpose stadium located in Mexico City. It is the official home of football club Club America and the Mexico national football team. The stadium sits at an altitude of 2,200 meters, or 7,200 feet above sea level. With an official capacity of 87,523, it is the largest stadium in Mexico. As of 2018, the stadium also serves as the home of Cruz Azul. The National Football League, or NFL, features one game at Estadio Azteca per season as a part of their international series. Regarded as one of the most famous and iconic football stadiums in the world, it is the first to have hosted two FIFA World Cup finals. In the 1970 World Cup final, Brazil defeated Italy 4-1. In the 1986 World Cup final, Argentina defeated West Germany 3-2. It also hosted the 1986 quarterfinal match between Argentina and England, in which Diego Maradona scored both the Hand of God goal and the goal of the century. The Estadio Azteca is the only football stadium in the world to have both Pelé and Diego Maradona win FIFA World Cups, the two who are considered the greatest football players of all time. The stadium also hosted the game of the century when Italy defeated West Germany 4-3 in extra time in one of the 1970 semifinal matches. Additionally, it is scheduled to host games in the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Xochimilco, which is a borough of Mexico City, is characterized by a system of canals. These canals and the small colorful boats that float on them, among artificially created land called chinampas, are internationally famous. These canals are popular with Mexico City residents as well, especially on Sundays. These canals are all of what is left of what used to be a vast lake and canal system that extended over most parts of the Valley of Mexico, restricting cities such as Tenochtitlan, Mexico City, and Xochimilco to small islands. This system of waterways was the main transportation venue, especially for goods from the pre-Hispanic period until the 20th century. In the pre-Hispanic period, parts of the shallow lakes were filled in, creating canals. Starting in the colonial period, the interconnected lakes of the valley, including Lake Xochimilco, were drained. By the 20th century, the lakes had shrunk to a system of canals that still connected Xochimilco with the center of Mexico City. However, with the pumping of underground aquifers since the early 20th century, water tables have dropped, drying canals, and all that are left are the ones in Xochimilco. The canals are fed by freshwater springs, which is artificially supplemented by treated water. This is because water tables are still dropping and human expansion and filling in of canals is still occurring, threatening to have the last of these canals disappear, despite their importance to tourism. These remaining canals and their ecosystem was declared a World Heritage Site in 1987 with the purpose of saving them. Teotihuacan is a vast Mexican archaeological complex northeast of Mexico City. Running down the middle of the site, which was once a flourishing pre-Columbian city, is the Avenue of the Dead. It links the Temple of Quetzalcoatl, the Pyramid of the Moon, and the Pyramid of the Sun, the latter two with panoramic views from their summits. Artifacts in the Museum of Teotihuacan culture on site include pottery and bones. This city was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987. Pico de Orizaba, also known as Tlaltepetl, is an inactive stratovolcano, the highest mountain in Mexico, and the third highest in North America, after Denali of Alaska in the USA and Mount Logan of Canada. Pico de Orizaba is also the highest volcanic summit in North America. It rises 5,636 meters above sea level in the eastern end of the Trans-Mexican Volcanic Belt, on the border between the states of Veracruz and Puebla. Popocatepetl and Iztaccihuatl are two volcanoes which overlook the Valley of Mexico, and there are various myths explaining their existence. The most common variety relates the Nahua romance of the princess Iztaccihuatl and the warrior Popocatepetl. This tale is recorded in several different versions. In Aztec mythology, Iztaccihuatl was a princess who fell in love with one of her father's warriors, Popocatepetl. The emperor sent Popocatepetl to war in Oaxaca, promising him Iztaccihuatl as his wife when he returned. Iztaccihuatl was falsely told that Popocatepetl had died in battle, and believing the news, she died of grief. When Popocatepetl returned to find his love dead, he took her body to a spot outside Tenochtitlan and kneeled by her grave. The gods covered them with snow and changed them into mountains. Iztaccihuatl Mountain is called Sleeping Woman because it resembles a woman lying on her back and is often covered with snow. The peak is sometimes nicknamed La Mujer Dormida, the Sleeping Woman. Popocatepetl became an active volcano, raining fire on Earth in blind rage at the loss of his beloved. Now that we have gone over some basic information and history of Mexico City and its attractions, let's go ahead and start our VR tour. Are you ready? Alright, so here we are. We're going to take a look at Mexico City, which is a sprawling metropolis. It basically engulfs a lot of other cities in the nearby area. All of this right here is basically considered Mexico City. The borders are, it seems like they're almost endless, with mountains surrounding. So if you have, if this is your first time seeing the channel, welcome. This is our first VR tour together. If you have been with me in my other videos, then welcome back for our next VR tour here in Mexico City. Let's go ahead and zoom in. All right, so I'm going to tilt the Earth down, and the great thing about this platform, the Google Earth VR platform, is that it does tend to center around some of the main areas of wherever you search. In this case, what we see here is the main plaza also called Zocalo. And really, the Zocalo is a name that can be used for other plazas around other cities in Mexico. But this would be known as the Plaza of the Constitutional Plaza. And so this is the main plaza in all of the city. As you can see here, this place gets decorated whenever there is some type of festival going on. Everything is really well lit. This looks like it could be related to Mexican Independence Day. Things are lit up in the red, white, and green colors of Mexico. The Mexican flag has the colors of red, white, and green, and it also has an eagle perched on a cactus with a serpent in its mouth. There is a legend behind that. So we look around here and we see that it is quite beautiful, the way that they have decorated things. I would love to come to this area to see it while it's in this particular time. I would love to go to this area and take a look around and get a glimpse of the magnificence of all these lights. And now this is very spectacular. As I mentioned before, you have the eagle perched on a cactus with a serpent in its mouth. And then you have the colors of red, white, and green. All of this is depicted on the flag of Mexico. This plaza was an important site during Aztec times as well, so that's something to note. Now, since we're already on this image, we can also take a look at the Mexico City Metropolitan Cathedral. This cathedral took just under 250 years to build, and it has a very unique style and features inside and out of it. Interesting to note as well is that because of the way that Mexico City was built, part of the cathedral is sinking to one side. So that is an interesting thing to note about not just this area, but Mexico City in general, is that it is sinking little by little as time progresses. A little bit closer to this cathedral, you can see we're right in front of it, and you can get a better appreciation of the art. Whether you're Catholic or not, this is a magnificent structure, and it is very old. Some of the buildings in the area used some of the rocks and other materials that were used to build the temples of Aztec times. So that's another thing to really keep in mind, is that they kind of reused some of the things to build some of the structures here in the main plaza. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look inside the cathedral. So this, of course, is a cathedral. It's a church. People are going to come. They're going to worship. They're going to pray, just like any other Catholic church. And you can take an appreciation of how big this place really is. Of course, people, when you witness something in person, there's always a different type of magnificence attached to it. But even when you're looking at it virtually, you can see that this is a very big structure, very well built and very well maintained, considering that it is an old structure, hundreds of years old. Let's see if we can get a closer look in some different areas of this cathedral. So this image appears a bit clearer. There's a very large organ that we can see that is played in this cathedral. There are some paintings of saints, of religious icons, things like that. Whether you're, like I said, you're Catholic or not, or or religious or not, you can appreciate the magnificence of the structures. It is definitely amazing. All right, so we're also near basically what we would call the downtown area. Over here, we can see the Torre Mayor. So this is a really tall skyscraper right here. I'm sorry, Torre Latinoamericana. I'm thinking of the Templo Mayor, which is a temple. That's a different place. So excuse me for, I would like to make a correction. This is the Torre Latinoamericana. And it's a tall skyscraper. And from up here, you can pretty much appreciate the city itself. You can see so much from up here. This is an observation deck at the top of the tower. From up here, you can see the Palacio De Bellas Artes. It's like a fine arts palace. They have things related to theater, dance, the arts in general. So it's a great and beautiful structure as well. So looking inside, we can see that it's very well built as well. This is a palace. And there's a place where they have fine arts. Like I said, you can see different types of art in this wonderful palace. We can even do a little bit of traveling in here. Although we probably can't get through these doors at the moment. Here we go. So here, it's like a big auditorium and beautiful, absolutely clean, pristine auditorium right here. This is the stage. We're on the stage, walking through this big auditorium. Very nice. All right, let's go ahead and make it a little bit brighter. Okay, so it's brighter outside. Now we're looking at some of the skyscrapers in this area. Most of the skyscrapers are along this avenue, this main avenue called Paseo De La Reforma, which is right here. We look on both sides, and as we travel this area, you can see that we are looking at skyscrapers. Let's go ahead and zoom a little faster. Now, some of these places, some of these skyscrapers have for example, the Mexican Stock Exchange, which is right here. And we also have different embassies that are on here. I know that the Embassy of Japan is located on this avenue in one of the buildings. But there are embassies of virtually every country in Mexico City. Believe it or not, there at least has been an embassy of North Korea, even in Mexico City. So along this avenue, you can see there's a lot of vegetation. It's modeled similar to the main avenue that you find in Paris. Now, I don't speak French, so I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, but the Champs-Élysées, that's the main avenue that I am referring to. And here is the Angel of Independence. So sometimes there are demonstrations that are held outside or around this Angel of Independence, political demonstrations. Whenever a soccer team or the national soccer team wins, they tend to congregate and celebrate around this area of the Angel of Independence. So sometimes there are demonstrations, like I said, in this area of the Angel of Independence. Now, it looks just like any other major city of the world when we're looking at this. It could look like Paris, it could look like London, it could look like any city with European influence, or even other cities like Tokyo. I mean, they all have a similar type of feel. So Mexico City is a very large city, one of the largest in the world. Let's go ahead and zoom out. So take a look. I mean, it looks like the buildings never end. You have nice areas of Mexico City, areas that have a lot of green vegetation. I was telling you that along the avenue there is green vegetation, but it ultimately leads to an area called Chapultepec Park. Chapultepec Park is basically considered the lungs of Mexico because of so much green, so many trees and plant life in this area. So taking a look down here, this is like a monument dedicated to some what are called boy heroes, niños héroes. So during the Mexican-American War, there was one of the most important battles, which was the Battle of Chapultepec. And these were basically young kids who were defending the area against the American onslaught, and they basically sacrificed their lives in defense. And so there's a monument dedicated to these 6 heroes. That's why there's 6 pillars. So you can see right here, this is the monument dedicated to the boy heroes. And looking around, you can see a lot of greenery, a lot of trees, a lot of life, plant life. We'll go ahead and take a look in that at the greenery more, the park more. But I want to point your attention to the Chapultepec Castle. Chapultepec basically means a grasshopper hill in the Nahua language, which is the language of the people who inhabited the area during pre-Columbian times. And you can see this is it's a beautiful castle with gardens. It's huge. Even in the interior is beautiful. And it's in fact one of the few castles in the whole part of North America, and even the Western Hemisphere for that matter. And it is like a museum. This is the Emperor Maximilian. This was a presidential palace, a military place, a presidential palace for emperor's palace. All of these different things were in this area. So this has been the home to many different types of things over the many years that it's been here. Absolutely beautiful, well-maintained gardens, and you can even see Mexico City in the distance. So I do want to take a look at these gardens. You can kind of take a look at what it looks like. Absolutely beautiful, pristine, well-cut vegetation. And you can experience all this in person if you decide to come to Mexico City. Great place to take pictures, great overlook to see all of Mexico City, or at least the main areas of Mexico City along the avenue, Paseo De La Reforma. So great, this is just excellent. Now there is a big painting inside this castle that kind of depicts a little bit about the Niños Héroes, the boy heroes. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but it is something that is a sight to see. When you look up at the ceiling in one of the buildings in here, or one of the rooms, you can find that painting. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure where it is, but we can look at something else in the meantime. There's this carriage right here. Now, this looks like it's Porfirio Diaz, one of the presidents, or he was kind of also known as a dictator in Mexican history. And this is the Maximilian that I was telling you about. Okay, so we took a look at Chapultepec Castle. Let's go ahead and take a look at another place around here. So you can see that in this area of Chapultepec, there is also a lake, and this lake you can rent boats. You can be in this lake and kind of enjoy the area. You can see these individuals are using boats to go around this lake. And there are many different types of boats to rent. So if you decide, hey, you know, we're in the city, but I want to experience some nature while we're here, then try to come to the lake here in Chapultepec and experience not only the lake, but also the castle and what we will see next, which is the zoo. So it is a very big lake. Now, one of the other things that we want to take a look at is the zoo area. Now, I do have to take a little bit of a search to find this zoo in the VR platform. So I'm going ahead and just take oh, here we go. Looks like we found it. So this is an area of the zoo where children are walking. Of course, children love the zoo, and many people do. But here you can take a look at certain animals. It looks like there's a butterfly center here. There's even an area where you can see pandas. So there are pandas here, and I believe that this zoo has the most pandas out of any zoo in North America, and perhaps the Western Hemisphere. One of the most important things that needs to be seen when you visit Mexico City is the National Museum of Anthropology. I want to make sure I find this place, and I believe it's right here, the National Museum of Anthropology. And let's see, I believe it is. Now, there is a lot of pre-Columbian artifacts that you can find in this museum. You can buy tickets in this area to get your tickets to go into the museum itself. I want to see if we can actually go inside and kind of look around a bit. This is the National Museum. but I want to see if maybe we can kind of take a peek. Here we go. Take a peek at some of the artifacts that you can find. These are all pre-Columbian. Pre-Columbian meaning basically before the Europeans arrived. And here's a map of Mexico and some of the types of artifacts that were located in these specific areas of the country. Mexico City would be in this general area right here. We can take a little bit of a browse, a little bit of a gander at what they've got in here. Now this looks really cool. I have to admit, like, whoever designed that, it looks just amazing. Really great. Almost kind of looks like a dragon. And dragons are typically found in, it seems like in almost any type of historical culture. You find dragons. It's kind of weird how they all share a similar type of imagination. Okay. So definitely a place you want to look at. Like I said, this is the National Museum of Anthropology. Basically the study of cultures and anything you can find related to culture. You can, particularly Mexican culture, you can find it in this museum. Next, I want to show you something that maybe you're not aware of, but it's I'm going to search for it here. The Basilica, I believe it's this one. Let's see. Let's take a look. Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And it is. So this is it right here. It's near a hill called Tepeyac Hill, and there's some type of story that says that years ago, hundreds of years ago, there was a young Indian boy that came into contact with the Virgin Mary, and that he eventually had the imprint of the Virgin Mary on his tilma that he had to show to a priest. And that tilma is found inside of this basilica. So, I mean, obviously, this is a very important site for Mexicans, but even for Catholics as well. So this is a pilgrimage site. And you can see a big Lady of Guadalupe right here. And so people come here for many different reasons, but one of them is to see. Let's see if I can kind of get a little bit of a better view of the tilma. And you can find it, I believe that's it right there in the back. Yeah, I believe that's it right there in the back. They say that that's the original. So that's a better view of it. And they say that this is the painting of Juan Diego right here, which is that Indian boy that had come into contact with the Virgin Mary on Tepeyac Hill. Okay. So another place that I do want to show you is the Frida Kahlo Museum. Frida Kahlo is a very famous artist who really had some strange, but in a way revolutionary art. Very famous in Mexico. And this is going to be it right here. It's a blue house. And it also is called, in a sense, the blue house because of this cobalt color that it has on the exterior. You can see there's a long line of people waiting to get in. You can find a lot of Frida Kahlo's art in there, as well as that of other artists. And you can see it's Museo Frida Kahlo. And that is the Mexican, famous Mexican artist, where you can find some of her art in here. I want to see if we can get inside of here somehow. see if we can get in the museum itself. Looks like we can only get into the outside areas of the home. But this is the house where Frida Kahlo was born, grew up in, lived with her husband, Diego Rivera, and eventually also died here. So this is a very important site, obviously, for Frida Kahlo and her family and her fans. Okay, so another place that I do want to show you is called Xochimilco. We talked about the lake at Chapultepec, but there's another body of water, Xochimilco, and I want to see if we can find it. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to zoom into this area, see if I can find that body of water where you can actually get on some boats. And it looks like this is the body of water over here where you can actually get on the boats. They're very colorful boats. And let's see if we can take a gander at some of these boats. So let's see, I'm gonna keep on searching. Okay, here we go. This looks like it's a big area where they have a lot of these boats. So this is Xochimilco. You can see that this is the place where they get on the boats, and you can see this is the water. So these are basically bodies of water that were used. They were navigated on during pre-Columbian times for whether it was for trade or getting around the city itself, because Mexico City was built on a lake as well. So these are some remnants, I believe, of some of that lake that was drained. And an interesting thing to note as well is that there are some wildlife that are in these lakes, and one of them is it's called axolotl, which is kind of like a salamander, very famous and kind of cute little creature. And you can find them here naturally, but actually most of them are basically kept and taken care of in captivity. I wanted to get a good look at those boats for you, but looks like we are not able to get a good capture of it. Yeah, so these are very colorful boats. I will include them, or I have included them, in the beginning of the video. You can see some of those colorful boats. So you still get an appreciation for them, and let's move on to the next site. So there are many different sites that we have talked about, and you can see that Mexico City stretches for a pretty big distance. To get an appreciation of how big the city is, take a look way over there. That is the area we were earlier, and Xochimilco is over there. There are different ways to get around the city. There is a big metro system, one of the biggest in the Western Hemisphere. So there's a very big metro system. Here is Estadio Azteca, which is a big stadium. Nearly 100,000 people can be here for soccer games. And you can see that we're going to get right on the field. This CA stands for Club America. It's a famous soccer club here in Mexico City. And this is a field. I mean, it is a huge, huge stadium, and many different types of events are held here. Concerts are held here. It's a very big, amazing stadium. Now, we talked about museums already, but I want to show you another museum. Soumaya Museum. So this area, this is in the Polanco area of Mexico City. And you can see the Soumaya Museum has a lot of great art. Actually, it was named after the late wife of one of the richest men in the world, which is Carlos Slim. He owns a telecommunications company, which includes Telmex, I believe Telcel. Basically, I think the company's name is America Móvil, and it's like a mobile company. And so this is the museum right here, the Soumaya Museum. And this is the type of art that they have. It looks like a lot of European art, very fancy, elegant, unique paintings that cannot really be found anywhere else. I mean, these are originals. So this is everything that maybe it's possible that maybe the family of Carlos Slim Helú collected these. They could have been maybe donated. They could be temporary in this museum, but nonetheless, if you're a fan of art, especially European art, I'm sure you would get a great appreciation and love for this museum. So this is a great museum. Like I said, I think that it definitely should be visited at some point. And I think that there's plenty of museums in Mexico City. In fact, I think Mexico City has the most museums in all of the Western Hemisphere. Now, you may not have time to visit all the areas of Mexico City that we had just listed. We're going to take a little bit of a journey outside of Mexico City proper to take a look at some natural landscapes. These landscapes include the highest peak in all of Mexico. As you can see right in front of me, it's the Pico de Orizaba. So many people do climb this mountain. And we're going to zoom in to the peak and see some images of people who have indeed climbed this peak. And you can see they're probably very exhausted. It's most likely an all-day trip to be able to climb all the way up here. It's hard to say exactly how long it takes. I guess it depends on how fast you go, whether you have a guide, things like that. But needless to say, when you get up here, it is very high and you can see a lot of Mexico from up here. It is indeed very beautiful up here. So this is Pico de Orizaba. Next, I want to take a look at two volcanoes, and I'm going to search for them here. One is called Popocatepetl. And you can see it's right here, Popocatepetl. So it is considered a volcano, and you can kind of appreciate that by the look of this crater that's at the very top, at the peak. So this is, it has, of course, I guess the term would be exploded before, but this is a volcano, and it's beautiful to see from a distance, I'm sure, and it's also beautiful in the area. The area itself is very gorgeous, a lot of greenery down there, and it just looks very wonderful. So this is Popocatepetl. It's part of a legend that I explained at the beginning of this video. Let's take a look at its partner volcano, which is Iztaccihuatl. I'm going to search for it. And here it is. Now, I'm going to go to the side here, and I think here you could really appreciate that it does look like a woman laying down on her back. Right here would be the head, here would be the body, and there is a legend associated with it, and that's described in the beginning of this video. So if you would like to recall what that legend is, go ahead and go back. I did provide a timestamp for the Popocatepetl and Iztaccihuatl volcanoes, and there will be a description of the legend associated with it. So people do climb up here, and as you can see, there is snow. It is absolutely fantastic, a fantastic view from up here at the, I guess you could say one of the peaks, if not the peak of Iztaccihuatl. Next, let's go to a very famous area, which is called Teotihuacan. There are pyramids there. Now, of course, this is a view above Teotihuacan, but we're going to look for the pyramids themselves, as we can see right here. So let's go ahead and tilt down. So it's going to take us a little bit away, but we'll go ahead and zoom in. So here is one of the big pyramids right here, and here is the other big pyramid right here. And here is this road right here that essentially connects these two pyramids. Now, as you can see, the base of these pyramids is huge base, and they say that the base is bigger than that of the pyramids in Egypt. So this right here is the Pyramid of the Sun. And you can see there are many tourists visiting this area. It's a great place to take pictures. This is a historical site. I believe it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site as well. And people are just relaxing, taking in the view and just having a good time overall. You can appreciate the Pyramid of the Moon a little bit of a ways away, and to get there, people are taking this main road to get to the Pyramid of the Moon. So we will look at that pyramid next, but looking around, you can see that there are what appears to be ruins of a pre-Hispanic civilization. So now let's go ahead and zoom in into the Pyramid of the Moon. Okay, so it looks like the Pyramid of the Moon will be a little bit up there. So let me try to go to the actual Pyramid of the Moon, which will be right. Let's see here. Well, we're in the area of the Pyramid of the Moon. It looks like people are walking up to the top of the pyramid. And so this is considered a World Heritage Site, as I mentioned. I want to see if I can get a better view. Well, perhaps this may have to do because I don't see anybody walking up this up to the very top of the moon's pyramid. But this is essentially, there's a walkway to get up here, and then maybe it appears that it stops when it gets up here. Although this could change, but I don't see anybody climbing up any further to the top, and it looks like that's the case for sure. It says. Prohibido el paso, so it's prohibited to pass to go up further on this moon pyramid. So indeed, it is closed, getting to the top of the moon's pyramid. But yes, this is still a nice area to look at, great thing to appreciate. And looking back, we can also see the Pyramid of the Sun from here, and it looks great. And I believe I pointed out here, this is a small ruin right here, a small pyramid, so to speak. But this one, the one that we're on right now, is the Pyramid of the Moon. So I hope you enjoyed today's tour. This has been a tour of Mexico City. This has been a tour of the outside of Mexico City, looking at nature in the areas of Pico de Orizaba, Popocatepetl Iztaccihuatl, and Teotihuacan. It may be very hard to be able to do all of the things that we mentioned in just one weekend. So in a sense, it may be a good idea to pick and choose based on what interests you from what we saw in this video. And from that, you can organize a great, wonderful, and memorable trip that you will be able to tell your friends, tell your family, things like that. So yeah, just go ahead and plan accordingly. At the moment of this recording, COVID is still going on, but we hope that with time, COVID does indeed dissipate, and we hope that your family, friends, and loved ones are safe and healthy, and that you have a great time wherever you are in the world. This has been White Bow World. Please subscribe and like this video. Next will be Toronto, Canada.